Okay, so I've actually on to draw to trace out the back part, but I wanted to show you something. Remember I said my zipper will be by the side, but I still don't want it to create a bulge at the back, because the spine of a human being has got kind of an S shape, or it kind of curves in. So I don't want it to be rising or to be creating a kind of a bulge. So what I'm going to do is to make the back pattern should be shorter, okay, in order to avoid it. So there are other ways that you can use where you just add or you go in by a few inches to create that shape, so that when the dress or the top is worn, it will the spine will lie nicely with the zipper. So this one is going to have the zipper at the side, but I still am going to reduce the length of the back pattern so that we don't have any bulk fabric there. So I just come to the sewing allowance at the waist, and this was 1 inch. Remember, this was 1 inch. So you can come in by 0.75. okay, so from the center back you would draw a straight line all the way, so that this area is shorter in comparison to the front pattern. Okay, so you have something like this. So this 0.7 part, this part is going to be eliminated. We're going to cut this off when we cut this pattern, so it's going to be shorter and we will not have any excesses. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this quickly, and then we can proceed to the next step. Okay, so you just quickly follow our patterns where we've drawn it. So I'm just removing that excess, you can see, and I'm just following the edges of our pattern. So this is the back. Okay, this is the back. And just quickly cutting all the excess that we don't need. And this of course is our back neckline. Our back neckline. Okay, so our pattern is ready, and it's also on fold. Let me remove this so that it doesn't confuse us. Okay, so this is our back pattern, and as you can see, it's also on fold because our zipper is going to be by the side seam. And then our front part is done already, so I'm just also removing the excess that we don't need, and then we'll be ready to cut our neckline, or rather our collar. Okay, we'll be ready to cut. So remember, we are following this one. All this I was just doing it for those who might not know how to trace out or how to draw a basic block, okay, bodice block. And then, okay, so we don't need this, and then we follow the one for the front, which is this one. Okay, so we have our pattern. Okay, so we have our two patterns here. Okay, I'm just going to write in bold so that you can easily see. We have our front, and then I just, because sometimes I keep these patterns for future use. Okay, I'm just putting some knots for myself. Okay, so I'm just trying to see there. First, our back, the neckline should be taller. So this is what we have for our back and our front pattern. We're going to go ahead to draw our collar. Okay, so I have a piece of paper here with me, and I'm just going to draw just a random line. This will be the base of my collar. Make sure it's straight. I'm just going to draw it that way. And now remember the measurements that we took of our neckline. So the front was actually 1.75, not 1.5. I had to remeasure that, okay? So for the back we have 1.75, and then for the front we have 2.5. So we need to measure that so that our collar will be able to sit and lie nicely once you have attached it to the bodice of the dress. So here I'm going to measure 2.5. So we have 2 here, and then you see this half point will give you the 2.5 mark. So this is the front, okay? And then for the back we have 1.75. so this way I'm going to measure 1.75. so 1, okay, so we have 1.75. so this is our neck, okay? Okay, so here I've drawn that random line because we want it to act as the base of our collar. And then from the edge, this would be your center fold or center front, and then you would measure. Remember, we took the measurements here. I'm just going over this again. So our front part was 2.5 and the back part was 1.75. So I've measured 2.5. That's where I have that, okay? And then for the back, so from there we measure 1.75, okay? That's how I got that. And then you decide the width of your collar. So I'm going to use, I think 1.5 is fine. I don't want it to be too, okay? I'm going to measure. So this is the center point that I got to, right? So make sure it's 1.5. This is the edge, measuring 1.5, okay? Let's make sure, yeah, 1.5. So because you want it to sit on your collar, I mean, yeah, on your neck nicely, you don't want it to have like a gaping space there. So just come up from this line that you drew, come out up by 1/2 inch, okay? From that 1/2 inch, that's where you measure your 1.5. Okay, so then you're going to measure like this, like that. So I was actually having an afterthought here with concerns of how to actually get into the jumpsuit. So instead of leaving it for putting the zipper, remember I said I'd put the zipper by the side, okay? I'll put the zipper by the side, and that's why I was not leaving our sewing allowance for the zipper allowance. So actually what I'll do is I'll just, when I'm cutting this on fabric, I will leave out a 2-inch zipper allowance and then just place this on top before I cut the fabric, so that I can change the zipper to be at the back and not at the side. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, because this is a halter neck, and if it's not going to have a break from the front to back, it would be complicated to put it on. You don't want to make something that you can really actually not get into. So I'm going to show you that change when I'm cutting on fabric. So I'm simply just going to add 2 inches here, zipper allowance, maybe 1.5, because I already have 2 inches excess there, but I'll add 1.5 inches or 2, I'll see, when I'm cutting on fabric, and then everything will just remain the same, okay? So now coming back to our collar, remember we had measured our front part and the back part. So our front part is 2.5 and then our back is 1.75, and we've gone on to measure the width of our of our collar, I used 1.5 inches, and from the center front I came up 1/2 inch, and then that's when I measured the 1.5 inches there, because I want to give it kind of a rise or a curve so that it will sit properly on the body. We've got some delivery people here, so that's how the noise is coming about. Just bear with me. So this is up to the half mark from the back measurement rather. So you just draw a line and you connect this one as well. That is 1.5 width. Just want to see that it's not touching those points, okay? And then to the front, you're going to measure from this point, join it there, and then this point, join it there with a little bit of a curve, because you want it to sit properly when you wear it. Okay, so you join this point to the center, and then you come to the center and join it to this other point with a curve, a bit of a curve, okay, so that it will sit properly at your neck. So this is going to be cut on fold. When you're cutting this is our center front, okay? This is your center front. So it's going to be cut on fold so that it covers both the front and the back side of your top or of your dress or whatever it is that you're making. So you don't add any allowances here. We're going to add 1/2 inch sewing allowance all around the other places. So you just go on to add your allowance. I'm going to use 1/2 inch sewing allowance, and then you're just going to connect that, trace it out, and then you are good to go. The next thing is to cut on fabric, okay, and lining, because I'm going to line my jumpsuit, especially the top part. You don't want it to be see-through. It's kind of an Ankara fabric, but it's light, so I want it to, you know, not to be transparent. So I'm going to be adding a lining to it. So it means you're going to be cutting 2 of these, and then one of the front bodice, and you're going to have 2. We're going to have to split this at the back here, okay? So just draw those allowances in, okay? It's just to help you when you're cutting, okay? So I'm just going in with my hand there, get that right, okay? Okay, and then after that you can go ahead to cut it, okay? And then your neck, or your collar rather, will be ready, okay? The next thing will just be to cut it on, when you're cutting on fabric, okay? And then, yeah, after this we're going to go to the other part, and I'll be showing you how to cut that. So we have our pieces ready, okay? So we have our collar, we have our back, which we are going to split there, and we're just going to add 2 inches of zipper allowance, because I've just decided as a last minute thought that it will be less convenient to have the zipper by the side because of the halter neck, which will not have any opening. So it could be a challenge to get into it. So it's 2 pieces for the back. This is our back, and then we're going to have 1 piece for the front, okay? So I'm going to cut the fabric, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. All right, so this is the fabric I'm going to use for this jumpsuit. I wouldn't really say it's a leftover fabric, because I bought a 6-meter piece, but I used a small piece just to make a head wrap and then the rest is what I have. So I have more than 5.5 inches because the down part also consumes a lot of fabric. We'll be seeing that when we come to that. So this is the fabric I'll be using. I've put it on fold, and this is the wrong side of the material. So here, as you can see, I hope you can see this line. I've gone on to add 2 inches. I'm going to start by cutting the back because I want to show you the adjustment I'm going to make, since I decided I want the zipper at the back and no longer at the side. I think it's going to make my life easier that way. So what I did was I just added 2-inch zipper allowance. Okay, I have an extra 2 inches, but it's fine, I'll just keep it. And then I decided to add 2 inches all the way down. Okay, so this is going to be our zipper allowance. So the next thing I'm going to do is just to place our back pattern here. Okay, so I also forgot to mention I'm going to line it. So this is a leftover fabric that I have. It's a pongee lining, but I think it's going to work just fine. It's black. I think it will combine this so well. So that will be our lining. And now I'm going to take our back pattern. This is our back pattern, and I'm just going to place it on the fabric this way. Not sure that the camera can pick the entire piece. Okay, so we're going to place it this way, leaving our 2-inch zipper allowance, and then we're just going to cut it that way. Okay, we're just going to cut it. I'm just lifting here. Remember, I reduced it by 0.75 at the back so that it doesn't give us the bulge. It's just as well that we did that, because then you see it's still going to help us. Okay, and then we added sewing allowance. This was our sewing allowance, this one. Okay, so on the side seam we don't need to add any allowances. This is fine, but we need to add at least 1/2 inch on the armhole and 1/2 inch, I think, yeah, 1/2 inch on the neck. Okay, on the neck, because we'll be joining it to our collar. So let me just grab my pins. I see I didn't bring my pins here. I'm just going to quickly grab my pins, and then we can continue with the tutorial. Okay, so here are my pins. I was able to get those. So what I've done here, I've gone on to add the 1/2 inch sewing allowance on the armhole plus at the neckline. Okay, that's the only thing I've done. And then here you want to transfer the dart. Okay, so just make a line there, and then just hold it. Okay, I don't know if that is visible, otherwise you can just put a pin so that you can easily transfer it to the back. Okay, so forgot to trace out the side seam. Just gonna put this back. You can add a weight so that your pattern is not shifting when you want to do this. Trace it out and then just go ahead and cut it. Okay, so now I can remove our pattern, and I'm just going to cut it. Okay, I'm going to cut it. If you're a beginner, I'd advise you to pin your fabric so that it doesn't shift. Okay, while you cut, doesn't shift. So you need it to be shorter at the back. Otherwise, you can just come in by 1/2 inch or 0.75, and then you connect back to the zipper allowance. You know, you need to create that curve. I'll do a video showing how the other method of how you can eliminate zipper bulge. Okay, you see a lot of beautifully made clothes, but when the person turns at the back, you find there's that bulging taking place, which is not, you know, it doesn't look nice. Okay, so for those who don't know, you see we added this zipper allowance here, so you just connect your neckline straight that way, and then you just go ahead to cut this. And I'm doing all this on the wrong side of the fabric. This is on the wrong side of the fabric. It's better that way, because sometimes you find stubborn markers or stubborn tailor's chalks that leave ugly stains on your clothing. So you want it to be on the wrong side of the fabric, because it will not be visible to other people anyway. Okay, so because we have transferred this onto my other scissors, okay, so I just want to notch our dart legs, because sometimes the chalk might also come out, just a small piece. Okay, you notch it this way and then flip it to the other side. You see, that is where, this is how far your dart will go. Okay, so you just connect it to these notched places here. I hope you can see. So this will be your dart leg, your indication for your dart leg. And then after doing that, you're going to go ahead and split this. Okay, so obviously if there are two pieces, you know automatically for this design anyway, you know that this is your back. Okay, because you're going to have two pieces. I didn't iron this, so I'm trying to crease out the wrinkles so that I don't get a fake measurement. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and split the back. Okay, and I'm going to cut the same for the lining, and then I'm going to move on to cut the front piece. Okay, so I've gone on to place the front pattern on the fabric. It's on fold. It's on fold, so there shouldn't be any allowances on your center front. This is your center front. Okay, I'm trying to just bring the entire fabric in view. So this should be your center front. So no allowance there, because otherwise it will give you excess. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just quickly going to trace it, and then I'm just eyeballing it here, but I'm adding approximately half inch there. Okay, and half inch on the neckline. Okay, if you are new, please measure so that it will be accurate. Okay, and then also you want your dart, so you can transfer that and just hold that place. Transfer your dart. I normally will put a pin so that I can see on the other side when I flip it. Okay, okay, and then maybe it also helps to notch this excess. You see where your sewing allowance is, that's notch. You can do the same on the back pattern, and then you can go ahead to cut it. Okay, you can go ahead to cut it. I'm gonna cut it quickly, and then I'll cut the lining and just go ahead to put the upper part together. Okay, so I'll follow that. You can see I didn't iron it. You need to iron yours so that you know the creases don't create any excess measurements or fabric. Okay, again I'm just notching the dart legs, because sometimes, like I said, the chalk might just vanish as you handle the fabric. Okay, so this is the other leg, I mean the front or one side of the bodice. The dart will come to that height, then you flip it, because you've notched down here, so you know where the legs should be, and then there way there's that pin, that's where your dart should go up to. And then I'm going to use the front piece and the back pieces to cut the lining. Then I'm going to go to the machine and just stitch in the darts, and then join the main fabric to the back, and then I'll be back. Okay.